Hello, and welcome to the weekly reading. And this week sees us ending our Eclipse portal. So I have drawn us another dragon card as the last sort of dragon portal energy for the moment till the next eclipse season. And it's also interesting to note that this week has a full moon in Scorpio, and the last full moon in Scorpio, round this time last year, was an eclipse. It was the last of the Scorpio eclipses. So there is a strong kind of feeling of closing off that Scorpio eclipse, Scorpio Taurus eclipse cycle, even though this is not an eclipse, and it closes the portal of this current eclipse season. And because of the Scorpio full moon, I decided to go with lemongrass and Zengest. And also, aside from that full moon, we also have Mercury finally stationing direct. And of course, we still have the shadow of Mercury, but also the serpentine energy that links to Scorpio. But we will basically be focusing in on the fact that Mercury has gone direct, and there's just one more pass over some of the pressure points as we travail the shadow, the post-shadow of Mercury retrograde. So please remember that if you pick a card between 1 and 4, or maybe you pick 2 cards, this is going to give you a little bit of extra guidance as to what you need to focus most on this week. However, it is a collective reading, not a personal reading. And if you're wanting a personal reading, just check out the link below this video and you can get in touch with me that way. So pick a number and let's dive in. A lot of major arcana cards, and this little friend of ours, Seven of Wands, has been a very, very busy member of our card readings in the last little while. And I might be incorrect in saying this, but I feel like it might have been the 4th card of last week's reading, and it's almost as if it's just a continuation of last week's reading by that standard, and it's looking back in the direction of the other cards that were in front of it last time, but now we have cards behind it because it is our first card. But also, let's look at our dragon. So this time we've got the gold and silver violet flame dragon, transmutes the old around you with wisdom and grace. There was a strong nod in our what was our yellow crystal dragon to deal with wisdom and grace as well. It's time for transmutation, magic, and healing. Offer service under grace. And you can see the butterfly is always representative of transmutation. You can see the violet flame connection here, which links us to various archangels and Saint Germain. And you can see the shapes, very powerful. There's a lot of Plutonic energy. Pluto is very present for me in this card, and in the full moon reading, which there is a forecast for that as well. In the full moon reading, you will see that Pluto is squaring this full moon, the sun and moon at this full moon. So powerful stuff. And that also does feel like a continuation, coming through an eclipse portal, we have been changed. We have transmuted. That's how it works. And there is an evolution within us. Whether it's a very obvious one at this point depends on you and how the eclipse cycle hit your chart. Whether it's something where over time you're going to look back and realize how pivotal it was, time will tell. So here we are again with 7 of Wands, reminding us to keep our energy high, reminding us to stay on our side of the street, reminding us to you do you, okay? There is some form of potential attack from the outside, that external judgment, that external energy that comes at you while there you're sitting, trying really hard to keep your solar plexus chakra open and to stay in your lane and stay in your light. And even if you see the way that her head is turned away from the wands, it's like I need to stop looking at the scary thing that is coming for me, because that will hook me into being afraid. Whereas if I just stay in my power and in my light and in my auric boundaries, then that is not such a truth for me. I can almost ignore the external. So then we have 3 major arcana cards. Whoops. Okay, and we're moving, focus. And we're moving backwards from 10 to 6 to 3. 10 is the only upside down one. And 10 is actually kind of like a pivotal point in the hero/heroine's journey of the major arcana. Because 10 is the point where the cards up to 10 were we're learning a skill. We're being told, you have the raw material for this. Let me teach you how to use it. And then after 10, we're getting tested on it. So we go out into the world and a circumstance arises and we're like, okay, well, now I need to see if I did learn the lesson of the lovers and the lesson of the empress, etc. 10 is a point where it's like the wheel wills, if the wheel will once, or however that phrase goes. There's always going to be a turning of the wheel. So upside down, normally, if it's in its upright form, this is a good luck card. It's usually called the Wheel of Fortune. In this deck, it's called the Wheel, and you can see the link to like a lucky win as you roll of the dice. But you can also see how it's connecting to both light and shadow, and that it is a balance. Notice how she is balancing. Her eyes are closed. She's fully in joy, but she absolutely realizes that it is a roll of the dice. It is the luck of the draw. It does depend how the wheel spins. And that is the reality of it. And sometimes we're spinning on the up and sometimes we're spinning on the down. So with it upside down, it's saying maybe there is, maybe it's not going as well as you expected. Maybe there is a delay in the gratification. Maybe there's been a loss. And in fact, judging from the cards we've been having in the last while, I would say it is a loss. We are leaving parts of ourselves behind. We are transmuting. We are letting go of some deeply ingrained ways of being, whether that is in your personal capacity, but also in our collective capacity. So we've got a bit of grieving to do. We've got a bit of falling from grace and loss and the death of something, the birth of something new. But what is so beautiful is that the next two cards really do indicate the birth of something new. I mean, this one, the Empress card, really, even in this image, is very indicative of the birth of something new. But let's start with the Lovers. So for the Lovers card, it's also about personal boundaries. To be in a healthy relationship dynamic with somebody, you need to have your own healthy boundaries, know who you are, and choose to be in relationship with another who hopefully has their healthy boundaries. And from that space, these two can develop the third member of the relationship is the relationship. It's you and me, and the us is like a separate entity. So there is a level here of saying, okay, so whatever hasn't worked, whatever we are having to transmute and let go of, now how do we redo that? How do we reframe that? And I mean, obviously that can be happening within your romantic relationships that you're in. You can let that die as it was and be reborn as something new, especially if both partners are prepared to put in the effort for that. It can not only be lovers as in relationship lovers, it can be any kind of relationship. It is where there is that connection and those healthy boundaries and that desire to be in healthy relationship. And remembering that the eclipse cycle that we're in, that we're finishing at this point, has been Aries Libra. Libra the relationship, Aries the self. So this is like a new beginning. It's like you've gone through this portal of transformation and transmutation and change. And it's been intense. And you're finding grace and you're finding wisdom and you're finding yourself and you're letting things go and recognizing that as you let go of the old versions of your relationships, of your connections to people, new ones can be reformed. And then with the Empress, this is all about birth, fertility. It's deep mothering energy. I mean, you can see the full moon in this card, which is beautiful when we're in a week with an actual full moon. You can see the connection to water, the shoal of fish as her shawl. You can see the connection to earth. She is very much a sort of Pachamama, Gaia energy. You can see her hair is literally growing like roots. And she is in a very graceful, peaceful state. Her eyes are closed. She's softly touching her face. Her head is slightly turned. There is this beautiful, gentle demeanor to her. And she is growing something. She is preparing to birth something. She is holding space for something new. And that is the energy that we're bringing out of this eclipse portal. And I just think that is flippin' amazing because it ties in so well with a lot of the intensity that the last few weeks' readings have been pulling up for us. This is like a nod to, and now you've done it, you've got through, and look at the promise that is being offered to you in terms of new life, new birth, new beginnings. stronger, better boundaried connections in love, in relationship, in all its many forms. And the wheel will turn. The wheel always turns. So just because it feels like it's on a downward spiral now, because we have to let go of something that maybe once felt very valuable to us. Because imagine if you're thinking of this in terms of money, for example, you might have spent a lot of money on a car and it meant so much to you. And then at some point, maybe you have a car accident and you're just so happy that you and the people in the car and in the other car are fine. You don't care that your car is a wreck. And this car that at one point might have felt so important to you suddenly just feels like a car. And the people are what's important. Your health is what's important. So it feels like coming out of this eclipse portal, we're having a deep perspective shift. Things that once felt valuable no longer feel valuable. So we're letting it go. So are we letting something go that maybe holds physical value, like a car? Sure. Maybe we are less well off because the car's wrecked, but it's given us a new lease on life. It's given us a new perspective on what is truly valuable and important. And it's not necessarily the thing with the highest monetary value. And so that really feels like a strong trajectory in this week. Remembering, because Mercury coming out of retrograde, we've been doing some deep reflections on the I, the me, the mine. Because Aries is where the retrograde's been happening. Aries is where that total solar eclipse was a couple of weeks back. And so the Aries space of what do I value? Who am I? What do I want? The I words, me, mine, that has been under deep observation and reflection with Mercury in retrograde. And Pluto is linked very strongly to the full moon that's happening in a sign that is intensely transformative, Scorpio, and emotional, Scorpio, and squaring to Pluto in Aquarius, who is really wanting us to transform deeply in a way that leads us to something more positive for all of us, not just for me, not just for I, me, mine, Aries, but for us, the collective, Libra. So I feel like this is a beautiful end to the eclipse portal. I feel really excited and positive about this, actually. And it does feel like she was correct. She's looking back at the cards, not this card, but this card as well. She's looking back at the cards from last week and the week before that and the week before that, the whole eclipse portal. And she's saying, this is one long story. In fact, I'm so intrigued, I might go back and look at that long story and have a little feel into it and meditate upon it for myself. So I hope this has been helpful. Please remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe. I love comments to check that I'm on track, and I look forward to hearing from anybody who would like to work with me personally. Otherwise, thank you for your time and have a magical week.